morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am joined this morning by David and Batya, and we'll hear from them in a moment. I think this is one of the most exciting mornings I've had in a long time, because today we're talking about the art of negotiation, and what better way to negotiate the coming 7 days than to start your week with us. Of course, you may be listening later on in the week, but what we do here on the Weekly Energy Boost is we share with you the most practical and powerful suggestions, guidances, advice, prescriptions from the wisdom of Kabbalah on how to navigate the next 7 days of your life. And through practicing those advices and prescriptions, you elevate and improve the entire quality of your life year round.
That's right.
I feel that this, especially in the midst of the holiday season and with everything that we have going, going into a new decade, there's a lot of things that a lot of support that we all need, a lot of, I think, collaboration, room for collaboration and connection. And so this morning we're going to talk about how to maximize those opportunities that come to us, whether they come to us. Sometimes you're stuck in the middle of a confrontation. Someone comes up to you, accuses you, judges you, wants to have it out with you. And there's other times that you have so you have something to say. It needs to be said. What's the best way to deliver that message?
And we spoke about the idea that negotiation sometimes has a negative connotation. And what we need to realize is that everything that we do in some way is a negotiation of energy. If it's between our friends or family or clients, work, anything in our environment, in some way, it involves an exchange of energy. I think that's what negotiation is probably best defined as, an exchange of energy. And the question is, when you're done with this exchange of energy, how have you left the other person feeling? And how do you feel? Because at the end of the day, if you don't make people feel good, you're isolating yourself. And you're also, according to the spiritual laws of the universe, disconnecting yourself from the realm that we call the light of the Creator. Because we came to this world to create a form of unity and to connect with other human beings and finding a way to share and empower other people. And one of the reasons why we are unable to do that is because of our own negativity and fears and all the stuff that we've addressed in all our past shows. So the whole idea of negotiation or communication, however we want to put it, is understanding this energy that we communicate and transfer to any other person in this world.
One of the great things about having Batya on the show today is, actually, I thought we were going to sit differently. I planned to make a joke. We're renaming today's show Between Two Pisces.
That's right. That's very nice.
Batya's sitting opposite us. Batya, David and I, we often joke, are on the Kabbalistic calendar, we're Pisces. Batya is a Leo, so she represents a fire that maybe David and I strive to have, but don't necessarily have. So I'm excited to get Batya to ping off of us, ping pong back and forth, and see maybe the other side of the negotiation or communication.
Right. And for a lot of people who don't know, Batya is a senior teacher who teaches Kabbalah and spirituality out in Florida. So she's
famous for her relationship and prosperity courses, of course.
Right.
Among other things.
Batya,
and not limited to Florida.
We kind of dumped the topic on you without a lot of preparation. When I think, actually, what I was listening to what David was saying, the whole idea of having the other person feel good after the communication, I think a lot of confrontation and negotiation has the goal of making the other person feel bad. You did something wrong. You hurt me. You this me. There's retaliation. There's revenge.
Why do we define confrontation and negotiation?
Let's go.
No, well, throwing those words around. I mean, what did you intend when you said confrontation and negotiation? Well,
the topic of the week is always generated by the opportunity that the universe is going to give us this week. Mm-hmm. So what we'll find, this is the first week of the month of Capricorn, which today is Monday, is the second day of the month of Capricorn, and this whole the energy shift that we've encountered over the weekend has gone from a very light and bubbly energy. Some people felt it a little bit. I talked to some people last week that were already feeling the earthy, heavy, sort of sludging around in concrete feeling. And so one of the things that, the month of Capricorn supports us to is to be gentle. Why?
So what'd you have me on your show for?
Because we need that yin and yang. We don't represent the entire population.
Nice.
No, but the truth of it is we share the opportunity coming this week, the best practices, and then you can translate that into daily life. So we want to equip everybody as the opportunities to proactively confront.
Let's take confront, right? So it has such a negative connotation when you say confront, right? What's the one thing that people are most afraid of? To be confronted.
Yeah.
So what is the association that we have with the word confrontation? Humiliation, shame.
You're gonna have to
I'm
be
gonna
defensive.
Defensive, right? They'll know the worst things about me. How am I ever going to face these people? I'll do anything not to be confronted. Especially water signs. No, actually, I think all of us.
Some people like to do the confronting, but I don't think anybody likes being
Nobody
confronted.
likes to receive confrontation, but that's also there's two sides to everything. Like Capricorn, right? Capricorn can be the heaviest, but Capricorns are also known to be the most psychic, and they have, when someone breaks the Capricorn, overcomes the negative side of Capricorn, the earthiness, they fly in Capricorn. That's the benefit of being a Capricorn as well. So there's a lot of positive traits to Capricorn. I don't want to knock the Capricorn energy at all, because Capricorns have wonderful traits to them, like hardworking, taking something and working it and bringing it to fruition. So the same thing with confrontation. What's the point of the confrontation? Is it to hurt the other person? Is it to be right and the other person will be wrong, and that feeling that, you've walked away now, feeling vindicated, and you've stolen that person's energy? Whenever we're vindicated, we steal another person's energy, and that never is going to last anyway. They're going to wake up, they're going to realize, hey, that person violated my energy. I'm going to go back and confront them and get it back. And that's how we end up with world wars, by the way. So there's also the positive side of confrontation. It's, hey, our relationship isn't working, whether it's a business relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a marriage, whether it's parenting. Our relationship isn't, something's wrong here. I want to bring it up to your attention. So what could we do about it? That's a positive side of confrontation. It doesn't have to be a war, and it doesn't have to be a competition. It can really be, let's put it on the table so that we can work it out.
Let's give some practical steps now for our listeners, that even if they're just tuning in for the first 5 minutes of our show, they can take away something powerful for themselves for the whole week. One of the things that we've had many shows about the builder destroyer consciousness. We're not going to rehash it, but those who build eventually are the most successful people in every facet of life. And those who destroy, and we don't realize we're destroying, they might have a moment of gratification, but then something happens and the energy is taken away from them. And I think the most important part of being a builder is to truly understand what the other party wants before you try to take the energy you desire, to understand what the other person wants. And one of the things that comes to my mind a lot is, I think when we teach live classes, we have audiences of all different kinds of personalities, and someone will raise their hand and they'll ask a question. And sometimes if it's a confrontational question, it can be like, well, I didn't, the student can say, I don't agree with what you're saying right now. I've had a lot of those. How dare you say that everything happens for a reason? How come X, Y, and Z happened, right? So someone recently asked the question like this: How can you say everything happens for a reason? And my friend's child, this happened to that child, and you're saying that happened for a reason. How dare you? Da da da. What question is this person asking? Do they really want me to comment on what I said? Do they really want me to comment on their friend's child or the Holocaust? That comes up a lot. Is that really what they're asking? 99.9% of the time, what people are saying is not really what they're asking.
That's right.
And we've learned, and our teachers have taught us, to have a conversation with someone's soul and not with what's coming out of their mouth. So if I engage in what this person is saying, then I'm just engaging in a reactive conversation. So my question always to this person is, let's say her name was Cheryl. I'll say, Cheryl, tell me what is it that you really want to know. It's that simple. Tell me what do you really want. What do you really want to know? And then it's funny because then when you really get to the bottom of it, she might fight a little bit, but then she'll actually say, you know what, I'm actually having a bad day and I'm really upset because I feel like everybody takes advantage of me. It's totally different than the first thing she brought up and she wanted to know. And that's the first thing that we need to know about everyone we communicate with. What's coming out of their mouth has very little to do with what they're actually feeling and what they actually want from you. And that's why we can't take what they say personally, at face value. We have to dig a little bit deeper, and that's where empathy comes in, and having a desire to want to know really deep down inside what someone's feeling and going through.
I think I just want to interject a really basic concept that we bring up all the time in the shows, but especially for people who are tuning in for the first or second or third time. We learn in Kabbalah this concept of the two voices, right? That there are two voices within us. Very much, I think, in animation and cartoons, you often see like the angel and the devil on each shoulder, and the devil is saying, stick it to him, and the angel is saying, you know better than that. Kabbalah teaches that within each one of us, we have what we call the opponent or the adversary that encourages us to go the low road so that we will overcome that voice and take the high road. And everybody's opponent is going to sing a different song and going to have a different slant, because each one of our purposes in the world and each one of our own transformation that we've come to achieve is radically different. So many times when someone comes to me and says, I need to sit this person down and have a conversation with them, or I need to talk to my child or my son or my boss about this issue, what do you suggest? The first suggestion I give them is to confront their opponent in the situation.
Nice.
What is that voice inside you? The desire to confront or have that important conversation. Is it coming from the opponent, or is it coming from the voice of your soul?
Can you give an example so people can relate to it?
Well, I think one common situation, I'm sure you'll concur. People say, well, I feel so-and-so is taking advantage of me.
Okay.
So oftentimes when a person has that perception, it's an old perception, meaning it's been like that for months or years or decades.
Okay.
And at some point, the person wakes up and says, I can't take it anymore, right? Okay. It's usually not one taking advantage of, it's usually 1,000, and then the person says, I've had it. So the question I often ask that person is, where is the part that you can take responsibility for? And if in that conversation with that person, they can say, you know what, I wanted them to love me, so I let them take advantage of me, and now I'm tired of it. We can work on I wanted them to love me and the place of lack they were coming from that preceded the whole scenario. Then when they come to have the conversation, sometimes they realize they don't even need to have the conversation. All they need to do is to set up healthier boundaries.
Well, lack always precedes confrontation.
Right. And looking at that lack before strategizing, before what are the things I want to say, before I want to, asking the Creator to help me be a channel and speak the right words like we spoke about last week, right? What is it within me that I can shift so that, honestly, if I shift my portion of the problem, sometimes the problem goes away by itself.
So what would you call this? What are we labeling this for people to know? What do you call this strategy?
Confronting my own negativity, confronting my own lack.
And we know this is a method that we use as teachers with our students. The question is, who are you saying should use this? Because I think of a person, I know that when we meet with people and we do private coaching, they kind of already given us the authority, or they've given us permission and the authority to look inside of them and help them grow from their negativity. That's already understood from the moment they walk in the room, most likely. But for most of the other population, for their negotiations or relationships that they have, do you think that how open are people to hear you tell them, well, okay, well, let's forget about the problem you're discussing. Let's try to have you just take personal responsibility for your issues. How open do you think people are? Because I think they have to use this tactic, or not this tactic, maybe this method in a more personalized way in certain situations. How would you address that?
How honest the person is with themselves.
It goes back to what's the goal.
Do they want
What's
that
the goal?
even?
Is
Because
the
I
goal
think-
to make the other person feel bad, or is the goal to create a shift in the
Or
relationship?
what is the goal? Just to feed the emptiness. Where a lot of times most people who don't study Kabbalah, they don't even realize they're empty. They just think the other person's wrong and that person is the cause of my pain. That person's not the cause of your pain. We have a broken belief system about something, about our relationship, how we are in the universe, and that is causing the pain, but that's too complicated, too much effort. To
Taking
go
responsibility is very painful.
there. Yes, yeah, it could be. And why is it so painful? The only reason that it's painful is when we beat ourselves up
so
with shame and guilt.
so just to
But
be
if we
clear,
let that go and really be honest with ourselves, confronting ourselves or asking ourselves what's really going on here. I'm fighting with my husband, and I'm making him wrong, and I want to be right, and now I'm right, and so that I have this temporary victory in the relationship, but I've also destroyed a piece of the foundation of that relationship in the long run, and I don't know how to fix it. Right. So this whole idea of self-confrontation is the most really such a powerful tool to use for ourselves. And then when I realized, wait a second, he didn't throw out the garbage, and I'm blaming him because I don't feel loved. What came first? I don't feel loved, or he
Or the
didn't throw out the
garbage.
garbage?
all right. So to summarize the points that you both just shared for our audience is, we should never engage in a conversation where we're using the other person to fill our lack.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Right.
And this goes
Easier
right.
said than done.
Right. Easier said than done. And we talked about this in Kabbalah 1. This is Kabbalah 1, Class 1. This is
Right.
the first most powerful concept we learn, which is if I feel lack,
Right.
even if I think I'm coming from the right place, even if I think my words need to be heard, the fact that I'm coming from lack will always override whatever I'm saying. And the person will feel like energy is being sucked from them
That's right.
versus energy being given to them. That's the bottom line. All lack is reactive. We must
Yes.
first take responsibility for our lack, transform it, and then engage in a conversation. That's the summary of what we just said.
Okay, so can we use another example? You asked me for an
Yeah.
example before. We have a few questions that are coming out on the
People
feed.
should share situations in their lives they want help with for us to dissect on the
So
show.
how would you suggest confronting someone who's hurt you? I mean, I think we are already leading into that with this coming from a place of lack, but what would your advice be to somebody has done something or said something that hurt you?
Well,
What do you do? Do you
can we get
confront?
more
personal?
specific?
Yeah, you
Can
have
we
to
get
be
more
a little
specific?
Okay, so
What's the
we'll wait.
context of the relationship?
Yeah. Give us a little context so that we don't just give one blanket statement for all forms of people hurting me.
Well, let's talk about something else while they type their response.
Okay.
I think one of the things, just incidentally, that sets people up for failure in these kind of confrontations or interactions is imagining the conversation ahead of time, meaning deciding they're going to say the thing they always say.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to say this in response and I'm going to win.
So what's the point?
Right. And not only that, but by rehashing it, or it hasn't even happened yet, you can't rehash it, by imagining it. We talk about the positive power of imagination all the time, but by walking through the scenario without the right consciousness of building, you're already sucking energy from the conversation and from the relationship. So rather than striving for the conversation to go my way, or for, when I walk through it in my mind over and over again, I'm imagining they're going to feel whatever, they're going to apologize. By doing that, I'm actually preventing a more elevated experience or a more elevated outcome from ever taking place.
You're going into a very deep area now, and that is how we create our reality through our beliefs, and our beliefs trigger our emotions, and then it makes it feel real. So we're only ever in a conversation with ourselves anyway, and other people are just messengers that are showing us our trigger points. It's really never about the other person, as crazy as that sounds. It's about if we really want to reach a state of self-empowerment, the place to begin is with the self, and to realize, what is my trigger? What did that person say that actually hurt me? And what does it mean? The person said, you didn't do X, Y, or Z. And from that, is it just that simple? Or they don't love me, they don't approve of me. But who doesn't love you? Who doesn't approve of you? If you don't look within and realize I don't feel loved and approved of, it's so unfair, and we do this all the time, to take that burden and just drop it at that other person's door. and they don't know what to do with it because they're just reflecting back to us where our own lack is. So it could be, we could be the biggest victims of the world, or we could take this opportunity to go, wow, I can make a shift right now. I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to, how many students in the center that said, well, I was feeling, here's an interesting true experience here. I was at a wedding recently with someone who had a loss in her family, and she was starting to cry, and we're standing outside the restroom there area, and and then she said, and I caught myself, and I said, it's not appropriate for me to be doing this right now. I'm at a wedding. I'm here to be happy for them. And she made a simple decision and shifted it right then and there, and changed the whole experience for herself and for the people all around her, etc. I had just had this experience also, in my family. When two of my siblings were fighting, two of my children were fighting, and one of them, told me afterwards, she said she caught herself in the middle of it and saying, oh, why am I doing this? I'm only creating more anger and more hurt, and it's not about them, and really using the tools, and caught herself and just shifted the whole dynamic right then and there, It's amazing how powerful we are if we would just take responsibility. And the real enemy is the inner critic. If you want to really throw or take your anger out at someone or something, it's the inner critic. You don't have to listen or assume that inner critic voice is correct or even true. Its job is to throw lies at us, and our job is to say, pause, what a pleasure. Right.
So we're basically compartmentalizing this always into two parts. So there's the part of where I'm coming from and my personal relationship with the light of the Creator and the transformations I need to make, which has been addressed so many times on this show and is the crux of what the wisdom of Kabbalah is about. And probably something we don't talk as much about is, okay, once I've taken my personal responsibility, let's
negotiate.
Let's go. Now let's go through negotiation, right? Because I can't even enter the conversation as long as I'm coming from lack. Okay, so we've said we're going to address the lack. We're going to use the tools we've learned in Kabbalah 1 to pause, to stop being reactive, to ask why it's in my movie. What is it about me I need to change? To be at peace with it, to ask the universe for help. These are all part of the proactive formula that we learned in Kabbalah 1. Great, I've done this. It might have taken me an hour, a day, a week. I'm ready now to engage in a conversation. I'm ready to go out in the world. I'm ready to start a business. I'm ready to reach out to family members. I'm ready to rekindle relationships, whatever it is. What should be some of the consciousness points? So I have a couple points of consciousness. I'll throw them out there, and then we can elaborate upon them. So one is I remember doing a session with some of our younger kids who are in our community, I would say between the ages of maybe 18, 22 years old. And they all pretty much ask the same question. How can I be successful? How can I have financial abundance? How should I lead my life? Should I take this job? Should I take this internship? Should I go to college? All these different questions they ask. So one of the main things that we talked about is, especially these kids, they all want to know how they can take. How can I take from you, from the world, from important people, from rich people, from successful people? How can I be around these people? How can I take from them? So one of the things we talked about is our mindset needs to be that I have not the desire to take. We all know we want something, but shifting my mindset to how can I add value to every single person all the time, everywhere I go, without even calculating about what I'm going to take from the person. Having the mindset of adding value already removes 90% of the obstacles we face with negotiation. Because when the world feels that you're here to add, everybody wants to be around you. Everybody wants you on their team, in their corner. If you're the person always looking how to take care of yourself, how to be in your comfort zone, how to manifest your dreams and everyone else's dreams second, people feel that vibration. And as a result, nobody wants to even negotiate with you. So to bring the party to the table energetically, to attract the right customers, the right partners, the right network, just to attract it on an energetic spiritual level, I have to wake up every morning and say, I desire to add value, because I know that's what the Creator does, and I know the spark of the Creator is in me, and it's an adding spark. It's not a taking spark. Mm-hmm. And just having that consciousness already shifts you to a new vibration where you can even negotiate with the right people. Because being in a relationship is a negotiation. Well, what kind of person are you attracting in your life? If you're looking to take energy, you're going to attract the wrong person.
Negotiation's not a dirty word.
Right. A lot of people think it is a dirty word. It's like, it's what I take and what you take.
Right, exactly. And everybody negotiates. One of the first things I told my children is when they were arguing, I said, don't argue. And even if they want something from me, I'd say, negotiate. Let's negotiate. It's not a dirty word.
Right.
It's one of the best tools a person can develop, best skills a person can develop, because every single one of us is in the business of relationships. Every single one of us. And every single one of us has different desires. And now it's not about right or wrong, but let's be very practical. Let's go out to dinner. You want to eat Chinese, I want to eat Italian. What are we going to do now? We're going to negotiate, right? You're going to present your argument as to why we should eat Chinese, and I'm going to present my argument as to why we should eat Italian food, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and everything right with that. It's just a matter of what can we offer the audience here, practical, helpful tools in the art of negotiation. The first one is it's a positive thing. Let's put that on the table. Think of negotiation as a positive thing. It's a fun thing to do. It's a way to have each person's desires to identify what our desires are, what is the desires of the other person, how can I help them meet their desires while finding a way to have my own desires met as well. Beautiful. So we're going to figure out, in terms of Chinese or Italian, what are the other factors that are is significant or is important to the other person. Let's say the Chinese restaurant is 30 minutes away, but the Italian restaurant is 10 minutes away. We're going to see a movie after. Oh yeah, well, I want to see the movie. All right, I'll give in on the Chinese, but I want to pick the movie. All right, you know what I mean? So that's the way to a happy relationship, whether it's negotiating money, which is another hot topic, negotiating money. That is something that many, many people are absolutely frightened of. The whole idea of negotiating, for the right price or business, or negotiating a raise, or negotiating conditions in the working conditions, when you don't have to see it as the most dreaded experience in the world. Like, it's really about finding a way to have everybody's needs met. Maybe not in the way you originally thought, but in a way that can be just much more creative than we gave it credit for in the beginning.
I want to stop you there just because I think that that's one of the most fabulous and also frightening examples of needing to negotiate is when it comes to a work dynamic and you want to ask for a raise, or you want to ask for a promotion, or you're looking for recognition for something, whether it's monetary or otherwise.
Right.
And where many times the opponent or that negative inner critic shows up is, I don't know my value, so how can I ask someone on the outside of me to recognize my value? So that
you don't even know what you want. I had this conversation with a student of mine, and we were talking about possibilities, her value, and how much money. I suggested that she ask, and I said to her, but I know you're not going to get it. She said, why? I said, because the money isn't really what you're really negotiating for. You really want it. What you really want is to be acknowledged. And when I said that, she you heard silence, there's crickets. She goes, oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
That she would rather make $50,000 less a year, and just so that she could be the star of the office, because that really has more value for her than the money. We think we know what we really want to negotiate. We, most of the time, the disadvantage in negotiations, we don't even know what we want to negotiate for.
Right.
We think we're negotiating for one thing, but if you don't, know yourself, then that negotiation is not going to go well, and you're going to feel like you lost the competition.
I want to
even though you may have won the $50,000.
Exactly.
But you lost because you didn't get the spotlight.
She would have never gotten the $50,000 more, only because it really wasn't revealing her true desire.
And I want to comment on something that Batya said, which is that one of the values of creating a win-win scenario, as opposed to you just getting more and the other person being at a loss, one of the spiritual concepts that we learn is that wherever there is fragmentation or dissonance or a disjointed energy, it says that financial sustenance can't rest there. And we talk about, for example, peace in the home, between partners, business partners, between family, between spouses. Whenever there's dissonance or there's a break of energy, That's why you want to compromise. That's why you want to negotiate so that both people feel good, because when both people feel good, you all get 500% more than whatever you would have gotten if you just got your way and the other person didn't. Right. So something about the unity, it looks like it's 50-50, but it's actually 500-500. You actually both, because the light of the creator, it says rests on the person that has unity. And that's the value of maybe giving up a little bit, but creating a bond and a unity between you and your partner, your vendor, your whatever it is.
So that brings up something that a spiritual truth that Kabbalah teaches, and I think it's especially powerful in this month of Capricorn, when one of the gifts, I guess, that can also be the demise of a Capricorn is their desire for stuff, power, accumulating. They like to work hard and they like to see the fruits of their efforts, which can be an amazing thing.
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
As long as.
But this is my point, is that one of the secrets to having a successful communication with the other person is not strong arming. Even if you are smarter, even if you are the
not
boss.
Negotiating, though.
Well, but the concept of concealing your power rather than flashing it to threaten or to belittle the other person, even though that voice inside may say, well, you could fire, just tell them you could fire that. Just tell them you won't talk to them, withhold love, right? That's a form of, what's the word?
It's a strong
arming tactic. Mm-hmm. So part of what David is saying about the win-win, the 500-500 on either side is, even if you are the one who manages the bank account, or you are the one who has the connections, or is the smarter one, or whatever it is, and that's not the way you're going to win. That's not the win-win. The win-win is bringing it. I think for me, one of the most valuable teachings I've gotten from Karen Berg is, when you are talking to the other person, go to their level. Don't try to go, get them to where you're at. Meet them where they're at. Mm-hmm. And especially when it's someone who's close to you, like your spouse or a relative, somebody that you're vested in that relationship. Sometimes you want to say, well, what's wrong with you? Or what have you done for me lately? Rather than coming down, like you said, and saying, feeling where the other person is at, being the cause rather than the effect. And to me, and maybe we need to talk about it a little bit more, but if I'm trying to be the cause rather than the effect, the outcome is always going to be better. The problem is that when I'm listening to the other person, I'm listening to respond. I'm listening to react. I'm not listening to understand.
Right.
And as you're hearing, you're already answering them in your head before they've finished sharing with you what's in their heart.
So let's reiterate the concepts and points we've talked about so far, so our audience can really grasp it. And if you have questions about any of these points, put these questions in. And obviously, if any of these things are helpful, like, share, comment, help us with engagement, and then you spread this wisdom out to our communities. So number one, which is the most important thing, we learned can't come from lack, can't be reactive. And I think that leads to the point you just said, Elisheva, which is most people listen to respond as opposed to listen to
understand.
What? To understand, right? Mm-hmm. When you see people quickly responding to what you're saying, it means that deep down inside they have lack. That's why they're responding so quick. People who don't have lack,
like we do in the show, back and forth, and we interrupt each other.
And it's interesting. It's interesting because I notice about the way we interrupt each other, and tell me if I'm wrong. I try to make a conscious effort of this. Is as soon as I want to say something, I pause, and I'm kind of waiting for this moment that your energy.
There's a rhythm.
There is a rhythm to the madness of this show. There's a lot more things we're not saying than we are saying. So let's just put it that way.
But by the way, that's also a good tactic for negotiation. Is say less, not more.
So let's just start over that lack coming not from that lack. And our teacher, Rob Berg, has shared this point of communication all the time. He said that the most powerful words that he tells somebody is what he really wants to tell somebody, and then he stops saying it, and in his mind transfers the energy instead. So a lot of times, if I want to say something on the show, but I feel like you're in the middle of a point, I'll just pause and I'll try to send
Send me
send you the
sentence.
words, send you the sentence. And the truth is, whether you say it or our audience hears it, because people hear something totally different than whatever we're saying.
Right.
That's so true.
People are like, I heard your show and I really learned how to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, we talked about ABC, not X, Y, Z. Where'd you get X, Y, Z from? And it's just that it's energy. People hear energy, they feel energy, they're not really listening to the words. So number one, transform the lack, take responsibility for it. We teach it in Kabbalah 1, how to do that in depth. We're not going to go into it today. Number two, we talked about to let's say adding value. The desire to add value is going to bring you to the table in the right way. It's going to bring the right people to the table, and it's going to put out an energy vibration out in the world that you really need. People feel energy. People go with their gut feelings, their instincts. All resumes look the same. Everybody has 30 years of consulting experience apparently on their resumes. I'm like interviewing a kid. He's like 19 years old. And he's like, I have years of consulting. I'm like, what consulting? Everybody just throws that on their resume. So all the resumes look the same. We got to go with energy of the person. It's the consciousness of the person, the desire to add value. The next point that we said is to understand what the other party wants, to really understand what this person is asking, what do they want, what's their love language, what makes them feel good. And I think a good tactic to understand what a person wants is just to ask a lot of questions. And what's his name? Chris Voss. We talked about it in the car. He's the world's famous FBI negotiator. He has a whole class. He talks about the idea that of mirroring, where a person says something, and based on kind of what they said, you ask questions upon it, right? So and it's usually the last 3 to 5 words of whatever they said in the sentence. You pick up those 3 to 5 words and you ask them a question based on it. Number one, it makes the person feel heard. It shows that you have empathy. But number two, it allows them to elaborate more and understand what they want. So in meetings, when we have with students, I'm usually asking a lot of random questions that they think is totally random. They're coming for relationship health. I'm asking them questions about their business, about this, about so many random things.
Right.
I want to understand how they answer these questions. I want to understand how they react to my questions. I want to understand how they problem solve. You better understand what a person truly wants, because what they say they want is almost never what they actually want. Understand what your other party wants before you negotiate.
Also understand what you want before you negotiate.
Right, and then Bhatia said, you need to be clear about what you want. Otherwise, it's going to come out. It's going to come out in the wrong way, and you're going to have a result that you weren't really looking for because you weren't truly clear about
But
that.
there's 2 kinds of negotiations. There's the negative kind, which is competitive, and then there's the other kind, which is building. Mm-hmm. Right? So obviously we want to go for the building negotiation.
Right. We said a 50-50 is actually a 500-500. You think you're leaving 50 on the table, you have to give up 50. You're actually getting 10 times more than that, because the light of the Creator rests wherever there's unity, wherever there's happiness. And the fifth thing I'll just throw in there, and we can comment on, is it's almost impossible to negotiate or have a conversation or have unity with someone that you judge, or someone that you have passive evil eye towards.
Good point.
Right, that's the big thing. You never can understand what a person wants when you're judging them, and it's very hard. But one of the things we all have to ask ourselves before we communicate with anybody is, am I judging this person? This happens with who? This happens with people who are closest to us. This happens with people that we live with. These are people we deal with on a daily basis. It's natural to judge them. Right? We always say when you're dating someone, you see them once a week for those 2 hours, right? It's like there's no judging. It's just like it's an amazing relationship. People say, I'm in an amazing relationship. I see this person once a month. It's an amazing, for those 2 hours where we look, smell, and feel the best, and we just have another like 700 hours of missing each other, and then the 2 hours that we're with each other. So people say, I'm in an amazing, healthy relationship. It's a strong relationship. That's what they say.
Notice we're all married and laughing.
So obviously, a strong relationship is something else, and it's just very natural, because whatever you're comfortable with, you start to judge, and you have to make an active effort to reverse that in your mind, to realize it's the opponent putting these negative thoughts inside of you, and that there is good to this person. So constantly see the good. We've had classes about that, and it's so toxic, it's so poisonous to focus on people's bad traits. They have them. Yes, they have them. But if you live your life based on those person's bad traits, you're going to live alone. No one's going to want to negotiate with you or have any communication with you or any conversation with you. And you'll just have a self-righteous anger following you everywhere you go.
That brings up a whole nother point. the ethics of negotiation, not hitting below the belt, not passing the boundaries
Right.
of, especially in, where is the most negotiation happening? It's not in business. It's in the family. It's between our spouses or the people we work closest with. This is really where most of this negotiation is going on. And one of the things I think we're not educated enough about is respecting other people's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
When something is sensitive to that person and if you care about them, if you want to have a long-term relationship with them, don't try to pry open that boundary. Tell me what you're thinking. You ever have that in the tell me what you're thinking. Well, if the person wanted you to know what they were thinking, they would tell you what they're thinking. So if they're not telling you what they're thinking, you got to respect there's a reason for it.
That's nice.
And that's it's not a fair negotiation because you're putting the other person in a position to be defensive when the person who's saying, tell me what you're thinking, is the person who's actually violating the boundary and causing setting up the relationship for strife there.
That's right. That's
So
right. And it
honor that.
It takes years to build something and seconds to destroy it.
Exactly.
Right? In a relationship, you say one thing, you just destroyed years of whatever you tried building.
David mentioned a second ago the judging the other person or having that passive evil eye. I think a lot of us look at our confrontations as failures because we don't get the outcome that we want. Mm-hmm. And I think that one thing we can look forward to this week, or we can use this week to practice, is not being attached to the outcome.
Right.
That if my goal in my talk, this conversation I'm having with my partner or my spouse or my best friend or my sister or whoever it is, that my goal is to elevate the relationship. That doesn't mean that they're going to say they're sorry necessarily. That doesn't mean that they're going to pay me back the $500 necessarily. That doesn't mean they're going to remember how they hurt me 16 years ago and what I've been holding. That really, if I am there to be the light and to be the cause and to give my 500%, I want to make room for miracles. I want to leave room for an even better outcome than I'm attached to. And I think that one of the keys to walking into a confrontation, let's call it that for this example, is not being attached to the outcome. Then you have a chance for, you're increasing your chances of success by not having the form for them to sign in your pocket. Oh, really? You're okay with it? Here you go. The being able to flow and be sensitive and not listen to respond and all the things we've been talking about will always lead to a better outcome than we're preparing ourselves for. And I think that part of this, again, the Capricorn energy is inviting us to trust more the process and not be stuck on wanting things to go this way or that. So part of, I imagine if everybody who's listening this week is more open to the fact that there are better outcomes than they can imagine or plan for, that by me trying to be the light, what do we say? Do you want to be light or do you want to be right? I'd rather be light. And by going into I think one of the reasons we share about the energy of the month is because even if you're not a Capricorn, all of us are going to behave a little Capricorn-y this month. And so what we want to watch out for is that desire to be right.
What's the bottom line Capricorn energy that you can say right now that can help people? What's the bottom line takeaway for Capricorn?
Security.
We talked about a lot of Capricorn.
Security.
What does that mean? What are they going to feel?
Well, Capricorn wants to feel secure and has two choices. Either feel secure in the physical things, which will never happen. So that's why we want to always consume more and more and more, because we're temporarily that Prada bag, no matter how expensive it was. I feel amazing. I'm wearing the Prada bag. But after a while, that energy fades. So that's the 1%, as we call it, the physical.
But it can also be validation.
Not that there's anything wrong
security,
with the Prada bag.
No, I love a Prada bag, by the way, just saying.
Uh-oh.
In fact, I think
and Batya's address is.
But know that when you get it for her, it's not going to change her happiness. She's going to be happy with or without the Prada bag.
Yes.
In fact, you sending her the Prada bag is for you to do an act of sharing.
Yes. And I
to
will
be
help
closer
you with
to the
that.
light of the Creator.
Blue.
Because you are a giving person.
This is such a Capricorn conversation, actually.
So it's the 1%.
She doesn't need it. She'll receive it to give you the opportunity to share.
Exactly. By the way, I wanted to make that point in negotiation. The person who has the advantage in the negotiation is the person who doesn't need.
There you go.
There you go.
That goes back to the first
truth
point.
bomb.
Exactly. Truth bomb. Drop the mic.
Literally, my mic just dropped like this.
There you
Just
go.
went
That's how
down a couple.
powerful that was.
Yeah.
Really. And then there's the 99%. There's the security in. It's true. I want security, and I'm willing to let go how it shows up.
Right.
I want it, and I'm willing to let go how it shows up. So I think it's going to show up as this perfect relationship, or this signing that deal, right? And that business deal. When that business deal falls through, can I still have that sense of security? That's the big question. And the
Do I
answer-
feel secure even though nobody recognized or acknowledged me? Do I feel
Exactly.
secure even though I didn't get the bonus? Do I feel secure?
Yeah,
you can fill in
I had
exactly.
this conversation with somebody yesterday who was going through something tough, and this is a proven thing, and you can check your own life to see if it's true. Usually, there's always one area of your life where no matter how much work you do, there's always tests and challenges at one area, while all the other areas kind of like flow.
Right.
When you do spiritual work, and there's that one area that the Creator is always nudging you and pushing you, and never truly giving you what you want, because it's forcing you to break your ego. It's allowing you not to be spiritually arrogant. It's allowing you to grow. There's always one. If you really look at your life, you'll say, wow, this flows, that flows, all this flows, but this one thing I'm always struggling with. And it's always different for everybody else.
And that's the gift of the Creator.
And it's not a bad thing.
Oh, it's a great thing.
It's not a bad thing, yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's why it was to Batia's point. That's why don't to let go of the way things manifest, and to let go of the way things manifest, because sometimes there needs to kind of be a struggle in a certain area, and the blessings won't come in that exact area. They'll come in other areas, and it's okay that there's a struggle because it's pushing you to grow. And if every part of our life was good, the truth is you'd stop watching our show.
But, I want to say that about the myth of humanity, right? There's this myth, a terrible, terrible thing that we're trained almost, is that the goal in life is to be comfortable. The goal in life is not to have challenges, not to struggle, not to have your confrontation.
And that's a good sign. If you're doing something right, if
But
you don't
that's
have... No, I'm saying the perception is...
Oh, yeah, the perception is, oh my God, it's the worst curse a person can have.
Right.
That the blessing is the struggle, is the confrontation, is the negotiation. These are all positive things. Our gift to you today in the show is to rethink how you approach confrontation, negotiation. It could be fun. Negotiation can be fun. Confrontation can be exhilarating. It could be so fulfilling to have, as long as it's for the purpose, for the sake of sharing. We're coming from the right place. I want to not only have my needs met. The way I'm getting my needs met is to say pause to my own needs. Think about that other person. Understand what they need, what they want, what's good for them, And sometimes we don't get sometimes the negotiation is no. Sometimes, and that's good too. It's to feel good about not what's happening, but how our power is, how do I interpret it for myself?
Divorce and rejection can be positive.
Yes, it can.
Yes, it can.
Doesn't mean you're a failure.
That's
Well,
right. You
again-
can graduate from that relationship, as a matter of fact, because that relationship is setting you up for the next one.
And
Same thing when someone gets fired.
A lot of people could have taken that. Well, I'm in a relationship, but I'm ready to graduate.
Yeah, exactly, and that may be very true.
but that's how you break up now. You've graduated from our
That's right.
relationship.
I thought we were
Exactly.
going great. I think I'm ready to graduate.
Exactly. Same thing. When a student called me recently, she said, "I got fired." I said, "Congratulations, you got a promotion from the universe." You
Totally.
get fired. Be truthful. Did you really want to stay in that job? No, it was a dead end job. I didn't have the guts to quit, and I didn't feel secure in myself enough to go proactively look for something better because I know it's not tapping my potential. So I got fired. Now, two choices: tell a victim story about it and stay stuck, or celebrate and say, "Yay! What's my next level? What's the next thing that's waiting for me?"
Elisheva, wrap it up for us.
So first of all, Batia, thank you for joining us this
Pleasure.
morning. It's fabulous, and I hope we'll have you again very soon. David, thanks for being here as
Thanks.
well.
Thanks for
Don't want to
having me.
take for granted
I
that
don't.
you're
I don't.
here
I'm
also.
like, I just want to make sure you don't take for granted.
No.
We always take for granted the ones that are most common.
No. I don't take you for granted.
All right.
And thank you for having me. It's been a
Yes.
pleasure.
Well, as you know, we are here every Monday morning at 10 a.m. on Facebook, but within the next 24 hours or so, you can also find us on YouTube, IGTV, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Castbox, and Stitcher. Whatever method is best for you, find us there, subscribe. Let us know your questions and comments. If you don't want to post them publicly on any of those platforms, you're more than welcome to email us at energyboost@kabbalah.com. Sometimes we use those questions live on the air. Please don't be offended if we don't, however. We answer them in person as well. Have a fabulous Capricorn-y, confrontation-y, or communicative, thank you, week. And we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.
Bye.